What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And of course, I've done these videos in the past leading up into the season where I predict the final New York Giants record. And I've told you guys in my streams, I think they're going to be between 8 and 10 wins. But I figured to make it more fun, I wanted to do every team from within the division. I wanted to look at every team's schedule and analyze how I feel they're going to do it. Not every schedule, of course, is the same. Washington, for example, finished first place last year. So you would think they're going to be playing a more challenging schedule than the New York Giants. Not to mention sometimes where games are played in terms of home or away may alter my opinion on whether or not a team will be able to beat another team, or if a team's coming off a bye, if they're more well-rested. So I wanted to jump into it in this video and really dive into how I feel like the New York Giants are going to do. Yes, are there reasons for concerns going into the year? Absolutely. The offensive line right now is a major question mark. Daniel Jones, we need to see what he's got going into his third season, second year in the scheme, but the offensive line is going to have a lot to do with that. But there's certainly things to be very optimistic about as well. We have a returning defense with added pieces that should only be better this year in the second year under Patrick Graham. Not to mention, we can't be worse on offense. We've certainly added some weapons that should help us in the red zone last year, where we finished 31st in the league. We're going to dive into all of it. I'm actually going to start with the Washington football team just because they were first on the list in terms of the simulator. So we're going to start with them, and then we're going to work our way down to each team in the division. So let's start with Washington, and let's just pick these games. And again, I'm throwing darts at a board. This could go any which way, and there's no way I'm going to be able to get every single game right, but maybe, hopefully, I'm close in terms of the general outlook for each one of these teams in terms of their final record prediction for wins and losses. We're going to start with the Washington football team, and Washington opens up the year against the LA Chargers. I think this is a game that's going to be very close. It could go either way. I have a lot of respect for Herbert going into year two. I do think the Chargers offense will be improved. Their offensive line, to me, though, is still a question mark, and Washington probably has the best defensive line in all of football. And if it's not the best, it's among one of the best. And the fact they're at home, I do think Washington will be able to put up enough points in this game and create some turnovers against Herbert, who's going to be in a new scheme. First game playing in it. I do think Washington will win this game by about a touchdown. So I'll take the Washington football team to get off to a nice 1-0 start. Next up, we got the New York Giants. Thursday night football, short rest. Historically speaking, it is a tremendous disadvantage for the road team. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm going to have a split this year with the New York Giants, so I'll give away the second game, I suppose. But I'm going to have Washington winning that contest against the New York Giants. Then the third game of the year, you've got Washington going up against the Buffalo Bills. Bills, to me, one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the entire NFL this year. Washington well improved. I don't see them going into Buffalo and winning this game. I'm going to have the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen knocking off Washington for their first loss. Then we got Washington going to Atlanta. And even though it's in Atlanta, and I could see this being closer than some people may think, Atlanta plays much better in the dome. The offense will be a little bit more strong. They lost Julio Jones. Their defense is a mess. Washington, quite frankly, is just a much better football team. I'm going to have Washington getting off to a 3-1 start. Next up, the New Orleans Saints. The Saints, I think a lot of people are sleeping on. I still think they're a pretty good football team. I think Winston's a good quarterback. I think Peyton will get a lot out of him. He's an offensive mastermind. But the fact that it's in Washington, we all know the Saints are a different team at home. The Giants get an advantage. However, the Saints are not playing at the Superdome when we go there week 4 due to the hurricane. All that being said, the fact Washington's at home, I think these two teams are somewhat evenly matched. I'd probably say the Saints are a little bit better on paper, but the fact that it's at home, I'm going to take the Washington football team to get off to a really promising start at 4-1. Next up, Kansas City Chiefs. I don't care if it's in Washington. Chiefs, to me, one of the top 2 or 3 teams in football, if not the best. I don't see Washington winning this game. Of course, all the teams in our division are going to have to play the Chiefs, and Washington gets one of their tough games out of the way as they drop to 4-2. The good news, if you're a Washington fan so far, the conference record is looking very promising. Both of their losses came in the AFC, which could potentially be a tiebreaker down the line, whether it's for a division title or a wild card position. Next up, you got the Washington football team going up against the Green Bay Packers. Packers at home. They're coming up a 13-3 year. I still got to respect Aaron Rodgers. They play, even though Washington has a very good team, Rodgers in Lambeau Field at home. I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers in this game. Next up, we got the Denver Broncos, and I'm not going to give Washington every coin flip game. I thought the New Orleans game was a coin flip game. I gave it to Washington. I thought the Chargers game was close to being a coin flip game. I gave it to Washington. I think Denver's a good team. The fact it's in Mile High, they'll have the advantage with the altitude. I think they're two very similar teams, both built around their defense. Denver more so the secondary, although you don't want to sleep on that pass rush. I do think they'll be able to create some turnovers at home against Ryan Fitzpatrick if he's still the quarterback at that point in time. I'm going to take the Denver Broncos at home to drop Washington suddenly to 4-4 as they've dropped 3 straight, but only 1 conference loss. Next up, we got the Tampa Bay Bucks, both teams coming off a bye, so that kind of takes away the advantage for the Washington football team, being the Bucks will be just as rested, albeit they have to travel a little bit to Washington. Much like I said with the Chiefs, I don't care it's in Washington. The Bucks are just a much better football team. The defending Super Bowl champs brought back pretty much their entire roster. So I am going to have Tampa Bay taking down the Washington football team to drop Washington to 4-5, and then things start to ease up a little bit for the football team after that. You got the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. Very close game. Very close game. I feel like people are a little bit higher in Carolina this year than me, though. I know they brought in Darnold. I know they got pretty good weapons. They're getting McCaffrey back. Their defense is all right. I don't see it. I just think Washington's a better team. And even the fact that it's on the road, I am going to take the Washington football team to knock off the Carolina Panthers. Next up, Seattle Seahawks. If this is in Seattle, I'm taking Seattle. The fact it's in Washington, I got a lot of respect for Russell Wilson. I don't really like Seattle outside of their quarterback, though. Wilson, I feel like, has been carrying them. We saw how Seattle responded when they went up against the Giants last year. Their offensive line is still a major question mark. They're going up against the great defensive line in Washington. And, Seattle I'm not too scared of them this year. I'm really not. The fact it's in Washington, I'm going to take the football team to win that game. The Raiders up next. It's in Las Vegas, but I just think the Raiders stink. They lost 3 offensive linemen this year. Again, the strength of Washington is the pass rush. I just don't see how the Raiders match up with the Washington football team. Suddenly, Washington's 7-5 as they've won 3 straight. Now, this is going to be a split for me between Dallas and Washington, so I'm going to get out of the way. I'll take Washington at home. I'll take Dallas at home for the other game. Both teams pretty evenly matched. They're completely bipolar opposites. Dallas, of course, has the much stronger offense. Washington has the much stronger defense. But I don't know. I just feel like they're pretty evenly matched. I'm going to have both of them in that 8-10 window this year in terms of wins. I'll have them splitting at each other's home stadium. This may be a surprise, but again, I think I'm being pretty fair because I could have easily taken Carolina at home. I could have easily taken Seattle on the road. I have to pick one upset for the Washington football team. And the fact that and I can't have the Eagles losing every divisional game. And the fact that the Eagles are at home and they're coming off the bye, I think that's a factor. I am going to take the Philadelphia Eagles to beat the Washington football team in this game. That's now going to drop Washington to 8-7, and we've got 2 games left in the schedule. One, of course, being the Philadelphia Eagles, Washington at home. There's no way I'm taking the Eagles to sweep them, and that gets them to 9-7. And like I said, I'm going to have the New York Giants splitting with the Washington football team. I had them losing earlier in the year at home. The Giants historically own Washington. I think both these teams are pretty similar in terms of where I have them in rankings. I'd probably both of them, like I said, between 8 and 10 wins. The fact it's in New York, I definitely worry about the offensive line. We'll see if they're matured by that point in time. You got to think they'll be better by week 18. But of course, the strong pass rush for Washington certainly a concern in that game, much like I've said for several other contests. But I am going to have a split. I'm going to have the Giants winning that final game, week 18. That's now going to take us to the Dallas Cowboys. If I could figure this out. There we go. Dallas Cowboys are up next, and we're going to have the Eagles, actually, and then the New York Giants last. So the Cowboys so far 1-1, had them splitting with the Washington football team. Now we got them taking week 1 against the Tampa Bay Bucks. It's in Tampa Bay. No way in hell am I taking Dallas to win that game. I got Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Bucks getting off to a nice start on the year. That's just a really tough first game matchup for the Dallas Cowboys. Next up, we got the Chargers. And now, if you remembered, Washington played them at home. Dallas is playing them on the road. Dallas opens up this year, their first 2 games on the road, and I actually have them getting off to an 0-2 start. Dallas's defense, to me, is still young. You're going to have young cornerbacks. I like Justin Herbert. I like the Chargers offense. I think they're going to be able to put up enough points on the board to beat this Dallas team. This game is going to be an absolute shootout. I could see it being a 38-35 type contest, but the fact the Chargers are at home, I'm going to have Dallas getting off to an 0-2 start. Next up, we got Dallas taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Dallas home. There is no way I'm taking the Eagles in that game. I think the Eagles are the weakest of the 4 teams in this division. Dallas, that they will absolutely need this game, being that they get off to an 0-2 start. I think they respond when they get back home and they get to a 1-2 start. Carolina in Dallas. I'm going to take Dallas at home, much like I said with Washington. I'm not a big believer in the Carolina Panthers this year. They don't really scare me. I think they're a 6 or 7 win football team. Dallas is at home. I think they should win that game. 2-2. Giants, Dallas. I'm going to have a split, much like I did with Washington. I'm going to have the Giants losing in Dallas. I'm going to have the Giants winning at home. So that's the way I see it there. The Giants historically have really struggled when going to Dallas in recent years, and just historically in general. Dallas all time has a sizable advantage in the series. So I will have the Cowboys getting off to a 3-2 start. Now we've got the New England Patriots, and you're going to have a rookie quarterback, Mac Jones. He will be 6 games in. The Patriots spent a ton in free agency this year. I don't know, man. I feel like New England's going to win this game. I think New England's a team that some people are sleeping on. The fact that it's in Foxborough, I could see New England being a 9-11 win team this year. I do think Belichick gets them back on the right track. They strongly believe in Mac Jones. We'll see how the rookie quarterback does. I think they still have a pretty good defense. And yeah, I'm going to have New England because they're at home beating the Dallas Cowboys and dropping now Dallas to 3-3. Well, really 4-4 because we know how it shapes out with the Washington football team later on. Now, off the bye, but the same problem here for Dallas that we saw with Washington. When Washington was coming off the bye, Dallas doesn't have the advantage because Minnesota, much like Tampa Bay, when Washington was playing them off the bye, is coming off the bye. So you have 2 teams coming off the bye. Minnesota's at home. And I think these are 2 pretty evenly matched teams. I expect Minnesota to be about a 9-win team this year. I think Cousins gets back on the right foot this year. They have a lot of young talent on that team. I do think Minnesota at home against Dallas is going to win this contest. So I got them dropping Dallas now to 4-5 overall. Now we got Denver going to Dallas. I took Denver when they were home against Washington. Now Denver has to travel across the country. Well, not across the country, but they have to travel to Dallas. They don't have that mile-high advantage. Dallas, pretty good team at home. I will take the Dallas Cowboys to put up enough points against that Denver defense, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if Denver's able to create some turnovers. I just don't see them being able to put up enough points in Dallas to win that football game. Next up, the Atlanta Falcons. I think they stink this year. I'm going to take Dallas. That could be a shootout, but if it was in Atlanta, I'd give Atlanta a better chance. The fact that it's in Dallas, I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys to win that contest. Dallas now at 6-5. You got the Kansas City Chiefs. There is no way I'm taking Dallas in that game, going to Kansas City. So that's an automatic L for me. Chiefs are just a much better team. Dallas home against the Raiders. I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys. That gets them to 7-6. Now you got New Orleans, but it's in New Orleans. And by that point in the season, you have to figure it's going to be in the Superdome. Who knows what Jameis Winston's going to look like this year, but they still have a very good offensive line. I think they have a pretty good defense at home in the Superdome. Thursday Night Football as well, I believe. I think the Saints will win this contest. So that'll bring us to 7-7 for the Dallas Cowboys if you include the 2 Washington games. That's going to fast forward us to the Giants. I said I'm going to give them a split. I had Dallas winning at home the first time, and I'm going to have the Giants winning at home the second time. So that's going to now drop Dallas to 7-8. They got Arizona at home. Really good game here. I could see it going either way. I will have the Cowboys narrowly beating the Arizona Cardinals, with the Cardinals traveling across the country, which gets Dallas to 8-8. And then the Eagles, the last game of the season, I look at it like this. Eagles are going to have nothing to play for. I think they're out of the race. This will be a big game for Dallas if they're 8-8 going in. And I just think Dallas is better to begin with. But the fact that the Eagles have nothing to play for, and we all know the Eagles may tank in this situation. We saw it last year. If that were the case, I am going to have the Dallas Cowboys sweeping the Philadelphia Eagles and getting to 4-2 in the division and 9-8 overall. So Dallas and Washington have the same record, and I guess the way it shakes out, because I had Washington losing one game to the Eagles, Dallas in this situation would have the tiebreaker, being that both would be 9-8. We're going to do the Eagles first, and then we'll finish with my New York Giants. But that's the way I see it so far. And I guess I'll do the Giants first, actually, because for some reason it's not letting me click on the Eagles. So here are the New York Giants. I have the New York Giants getting off to a 2-2 start. I have it split with Washington. I have it split with the Dallas Cowboys. First game of the year. This, to me, is going to be a really, really good game. The advantage here, of course, for the Giants is Denver has to travel. I think both of these teams are incredibly similar. They are both built around a strong defense and a lackluster offensive line on both sides. Both offensive lines very questionable. I think the defenses are going to be able to feast on the opposing offenses. Where I think the Giants could have the edge in this game offensively is the ground attack. We saw last year the New York Giants, when they run for over 100 yards, They win games. They got Barkley back in the lineup. I do think he'll play in this game. I don't know how many touches he'll get, but if the Giants get over 100 yards, they were 6-3 last year when they did. They were 0-7 when they didn't. And being that Denver surrendered they had the 28th worst yards per carry against in football last year. They did very little to improve that. You got Barkley back in the lineup. The Giants are at home. I know the Denver's coming in as a favorite. I'm going to have the Giants winning that game, the first game of the year. As I said earlier, I have them dropping the first game to Washington in the 2-game series. They're now 1-1. Atlanta, I think, stinks. I don't see how they keep up with the Giants, to be quite frank. If it was in Atlanta, different story. On the road, you don't have the dome. I know the offense is still pretty good. Kyle Pitts could definitely give us a mismatch nightmare. That defense stinks. If there's a game where the New York Giants are going to put up 30 to 35 points this year, it'll be this one, and I got the Giants getting off to a 2-1 start. Next up, New Orleans. Now, the game will not be in New Orleans, and on top of that, Michael Thomas will not be playing in this game. I do think this is a game where the Giants could pull an upset, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to be conservative. I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints to win this game, even not being at home technically and not having Michael Thomas. So they will not have that Superdome advantage, but I will still take the New Orleans Saints. I still believe in that football team. I still think Sean Payton's a very good head coach, and I still think they have a very good offensive line. So I will take the Saints narrowly. I think it'll be a close game. So now the Giants are 2-3 because we have them splitting with Dallas. And that brings up the LA Rams. This is a rematch game. Last year, the Giants almost beat the Rams. Of course, now they had Matt Stafford. I personally think the Rams are one of the 3 or 4 best teams in football. I will not call for the upset here. I could see the New York Giants making this a very close game, being that they are at home, and they matched up pretty well with this team last year. But I am going to take the Rams to win this game. The Giants are off to a really slow start here. They are 2-4 overall in the first 6 games. Now we got Carolina. Like I've said with the 2 previous teams, I'm not a big believer in Carolina this year. And the fact that the Giants have it at home, if it was in Carolina, I may take Carolina. But the fact it's at home, much like I said with Denver, I am going to take the New York Giants here against the Carolina Panthers. I don't see Sam Darnold tearing us apart, even with all those weapons. I think our defense could keep them in check. Chiefs, don't got to speak much about this game. The one thing I will say, I do think it's a good thing that it's in Kansas City and against the Bucs. You'll see later. I think it's a good thing that it's in Tampa Bay because I think we're losing to those teams no matter what. I'd rather waste a road game than a home contest. So I'm going to have the Chiefs winning, of course, against the New York Giants on Monday night. Then you got the Raiders. Raiders are coming off a bye in that game, but they're traveling across the country. And like I've said, I think the Raiders' offensive line is a disgrace. I think our defense could get after them. Their offense doesn't really scare me. Derek Carr's not making me shake in my boots. I think the Giants will be able to establish a ground game. I think they'll be able to put up points against the Las Vegas Raiders. And that'll bring us into the bye week with the Giants finishing the first 9 games at 4-5. That's now going to bring up the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay home, Giants coming off a bye. If it wasn't Monday night and it was a 1 o'clock game, maybe I would think it'd be closer. I'm taking the Bucs. I know we almost beat the Bucs last year. This game's in Tampa. I don't care. We're coming off the bye. The Bucs are just better. The defending Super Bowl champs knock off the New York Giants. Eagles. This game's in New York. There is no way in hell am I taking the Philadelphia Eagles with the first game against the New York Giants, especially it being at home. A game that I think the Giants are going to come in super jacked up after last year with the Eagles tanking and everything else. I think that's just added extra motivation for the Giants, and they will get the win against the Philadelphia Eagles. Giants now going up against the Miami Dolphins and the Chargers, both games on the road. This is a critical part of the season for me for the New York Giants. They have to find a way to get a split, and I'm going to give it to them. Very good first matchup here between Miami and the Giants. Both coaches very familiar with one another. Flores and Judge, of course, coach with one another on the New England Patriots. Tua doesn't scare me. I think our defense keeps him in check, and I'm going to have the New York Giants pulling off what I think many would consider at least a moderate upset in Miami as the New York Giants get a big win there. I will have them losing in LA. Can't see them winning both those games for sure. Traveling across the country, Herbert, the whole offense, everything else. I think the Chargers are probably going to be at least 10 wins this year, and I will have them winning home against the New York Giants. Like I said earlier, I'm going to have a split against Dallas, so I will have the New York Giants winning the second game against Dallas, being that it's at home. Then we got the Philadelphia Eagles and the Chicago Bears. I have us sweeping the Eagles this year. I really do. I just think we're a better team. We should have swept them last year, and we only made a lot of additions to this team. Second year in the new scheme for both the offense and the defense. You added Dory Jackson on the defense. You add Kenny Golladay. I could only assume going into the year we're healthy. They have a new coach, Nick Sirianni. question marks there. I've got the New York Giants sweeping the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's going to take us to the Chicago Bears. Same thing, rookie quarterback here, right? Justin Fields. I don't know. I think Patrick Graham dials up a game plan. Rookie quarterbacks don't really scare me. They just don't. I know Chicago's got a good defense. I think Barkley could run the ball, though. I think we could put up enough points to win this game in Chicago. And at this point in the season, much like I said earlier, I think this game will mean more for the Giants than it will the Bears. The Bears have a very challenging schedule. You can make an argument by this point in the season they'll be out of it. I think the Giants will be in it. I'm going to have the Giants going to Chicago and getting the win. And then finally, against the Washington football team, I said I'm going to have a split. So I'm going to have the New York Giants beating Washington at home. And as crazy as it may sound, I've said 9 wins all along. Looking at it, I got the New York Giants going 10-7. And so many games could go different ways, right? I could see the Bears beating us at home. I could easily see a split against the Eagles. But by the same token, I could see the New York Giants beating New Orleans, being that game's not at home, being that they don't have Michael Thomas. You know, there's several games that could go either way. I think I was pretty fair. I have us at 9-8 if I'm being very conservative. Between 8 and 10 wins. I've said 9 all along. But in this simulation, when I really look at it, I got the New York Giants going 10-7. And I know some people may call me crazy. I think they've made a lot of additions this offseason. Yes, the offensive line is very questionable. I don't know. I think they could win. I really do. I think they could win 10 games this year. For some reason, it's not. Oh, there we go. I mean, for some reason, it wasn't letting me quick the Philadelphia Eagles, and I wouldn't blame that, to be honest with you, because I'm not going to have the Eagles winning very many games. So maybe the Eagles franchise was trying to block me from doing it. Eagles at Atlanta. I've already got the Eagles at 1-5. I had them winning one divisional game. Eagles at Atlanta. I'm actually going to give the Eagles a win here. I think the Eagles can beat Atlanta. I don't think Atlanta's that good, and I have to have the Eagles winning some games. This is one of their more winnable games. I am going to have the Falcons actually going 0-4 in the division against the NFC East. Again, easily could see the Atlanta Falcons pulling off that game. Maybe the Eagles come out with unpredictability with a new head coach. There's not a lot of tape on Jalen Hurts, Devontae. Who knows? I'm going to have them pulling off an upset. Next up, the San Francisco 49ers are not losing that game. San Francisco 49ers, to me, are one of the best teams in the NFL. Last year, they were incredibly banged up. The Eagles, unfortunately, have to play them, even though they have a last-place schedule. The 49ers finished last place only because of the injuries that they sustained last year. They get Bosa back. They have a very talented team. I've got the 49ers going into Philadelphia and winning. Of course, like I said, I got Dallas beating them. Then we got the Eagles at home against the Chiefs. Do I need to speak about that? That's a 44-20 type game, maybe. The Chiefs are going to blow them out in Philadelphia. No way I see the Eagles winning that. Eagles at Carolina. I'm going to take Carolina. I'm not going to have Carolina going 0-4 against the NFC East. They're home against the Eagles. I'm going to have the Carolina Panthers winning that game. Could be a good game. I could easily see the Eagles winning that game, but I do think the Panthers will have enough to come away with that contest at home. I'm going to have the Bucs on the road. No denying that against the Philadelphia Eagles. That'll be a blowout. I will have the Eagles pulling off an upset here against the Raiders. Not a big fan of the Raiders. Like I said, these two teams are pretty evenly matched. The Eagles, you figure they'll be relatively healthy still, maybe in the trenches, even though they always have injury problems there. I will have the Eagles going to Las Vegas and knocking off the Raiders. Then we've got the Detroit Lions. Eagles, Lions. Lions, to me, might have the first pick this year. As bad as the Eagles may be, the Lions are that much worse. I will have the Eagles actually winning 2 straight road games here in week 7 and 8. Then we've got the LA Chargers traveling to the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't really care. I think the Chargers are better. I think Herbert will be able to put up enough points, and I just can't see the Eagles beating that football team. Next up, Eagles, Denver. It's in Denver, Mile High. Denver's a pretty good team. I think they're between 8 and 10 wins, much like Washington, the Giants, and the Cowboys. I've got the Denver Broncos at home knocking off the Philadelphia Eagles. Now we got the New Orleans Saints traveling to Philadelphia. Like I said earlier, I'm a pretty big fan of the Saints. I think the Saints are a pretty good team this year, and I certainly think they're much better than the Eagles. Is this a game the Eagles could win because they're at home? Absolutely. I don't see it, though. I think the Saints will pull up the win there. I'm going to have them beating the Jets. I will give the Eagles the win against the Jets. Again, Jets could easily win. Rookie quarterback, though, I'll give the Eagles the win there. I think that's fair. And I actually have the Eagles finishing 5-12 and maybe 6-11, maybe 7-9 as a ceiling. I could see those things, but all in all, that's what I see. And if you look all the way to the right, I can't zoom in. I have the Giants at 10-7. I have Dallas at 9-8. I have Washington at 9-8. And I have the Eagles at 5-12. And of course, a couple of games could shift things one way or the other. This is just a prediction video. Like I've said all along, I expect the New York Giants, quite frankly, to be between 8 and 10 wins. I expect the same thing for the Washington football team, and I expect the same thing for the Dallas Cowboys. And those games will alter who's going to win this division. If the Giants are going to win this division, they're going to have to win the games from within it. I think they have to win at least 4, and I think they're going to have to win that Denver game the first week of the season. We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. But going in, I got the Giants winning 9 or 10 games in this simulation. I had them finding a way to win 10. We'll see how it all plays out this year. I'm really looking forward to the season regardless. I think it's going to be a really fun year, and I think the Giants are going to be very competitive. But as always, guys, if you like what you watch, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.